there, it's me, Emmy. And today we are recapping episode 1 of Amazon Prime's A Wheel of Time. A Wheel of Time is an Amazon Prime adapted show from a long-running fantasy series that I do not plan on reading. I really enjoyed the first 3 episodes that Amazon Prime released in one go of the Wheel of Time series, and I'm so excited for episode 4. Today we're just going to be covering episode 1 of A Wheel of Time, and I will be following up with the other 2 episodes before the release of the 4th episode this Friday, so stay tuned for those recaps and reviews. Again, I haven't read the series of novels that this is based on, and I don't plan to. If you're going to be a stickler about changes from the show to the book, this really is not going to be the recap and review series for you. It should be able to stand alone on its own, so I'm going to be approaching the series like a standalone series. If you want a clear, pure, uncut Wheel of Time by Amazon Prime experience, you've come to the right place. A Wheel of Time opens on Moiraine, played by Rosamund Pike. Moiraine is an Aes Sedai. The Aes Sedai are largely feared and revered in this world. Their power is known, but not universally loved. Moiraine and her familiar, played by an amazing Daniel Henney, prepare to embark on the next leg of their quest to find the dragon, a figure of historical import said to be reincarnated 20 years ago-ish to this day. The prophecy Moiraine describes says that the dragon once brought darkness, and may again if the Aes Sedai do not beat the darkness to the dragon. See, a militant group of more magical women hunt down a man who seems to be in the throes of a mental break. We can assume that those ladies were Aes Sedai at this juncture. And then we take another sharp left turn to peep in on some girl shit at the Two Rivers, which is like a little country bumpkin village in this universe. All these ladies just doing girl shit by the water, pushing each other into stormy white water from a 20-foot drop with no warning. You know, girly things. We meet Egwene, a young woman who is the one about to be pushed into the water, receiving her braid and her entrance into womanhood in this village. And then her mentor, the village wisdom, Nynaeve, pushes her into the water and kind of tells her to go with the flow. Egwene emerges from the river victorious and returns to town. It's at the village tavern that we meet our hot little piece of Wonder Bread Rand. At the tavern, we meet Mat, Perrin, and Rand. Perrin is a sweet, quiet boy who is married. I'm sure this won't hurt us later. Mat shows his ass immediately with his gambling problem, but he's a complex character, you guys. Book readers, it's okay to get attached, right? When Lan and Moiraine burst into the tavern with all the subtlety of twin tornadoes, it's Nynaeve who's brave enough to be like, "Can we help you?" Moiraine brushes past her like she's fucking nothing, dude. It's fucking wild. I was like, ah! And then goes on to have this stilted, weirdly edited conversation with the innkeep that goes out of its way to send 30 different competing messages. We obviously know that Nynaeve is suspicious, but it's very hard to discern in the scene how the rest of the town feels other than just cautious in general and shocked. So Nynaeve warns Perrin and Rand about the Aes Sedai with no specifics. It's not super helpful. But then she urges Perrin in a kind of like shady motherly way to go and check on his wife who's alone at the forge. I don't really know the relationship prior to her becoming a wisdom with these characters. She's definitely taken on a very authoritative role in the town at a very young age because she's not that much older than the rest of these kids. We follow Perrin to the forge where he tells his wife, "I love you," and his wife says, "I know," just crushing. Then we pivot to something lighter, only not at all. It's Mat's home life. He is a skis, ... because he's raising money for his sisters. And we love that. White Tower is further expounded upon as very ominous, and then we see that the townspeople aren't exactly jazzed to have an Aes Sedai in their midst. I appreciated this because it gave a clearer idea that whether they trust the Aes Sedai or not, their presence in their peaceful little lives is not a good sign. And then in a very wholesome like display of like sex positivity, Rand and Egwene's parents give them free license to fuck as long as they do the dishes, which is fair. They kiss. Rand pulls out the soggy little berry. In context, that's not a euphemism. He literally has this little raspberry thing that he's been keeping in his pocket. Oh my god, can you imagine how warm that shit is? And he goes to hand it to Egwene, who reacts exactly how I did when he pulled it out of his pocket. Because that scene in the forest, that was like 13 hours ago. So you know it's gushy. Egwene, my queen, roasts him for it, but they make out anyway. Okay, and then they bone. Then we get this scene of Lan and Moiraine in their bathtub together in the inn, and they're not like sexual with each other. Like there's not like a sexual chemistry there, it's much more emotional. But my sexuality has been redefined by this scene. Of course it doesn't last long. No peace can last long. Everyone is half naked when they begin to suspect that something's like not right. For Rand, this comes in the form of Egwene telling him that Nynaeve offered her a mentorship to eventually become a wisdom. Has told Egwene that she can probably listen to the wind one day, and we can tell that that's really exciting. Rand understands this, but it doesn't dampen the hurt. To be honest, I understand why in this moment Rand gets angry rather than rationalizes it. Half the pilot is Rand talking about how he's been fantasizing ever since he was a little kid that he wants to like marry Egwene and have like a little Rand and blah 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 in the countryside. So her withholding this little bit of information that brings that whole fantasy crumbling down until their post-coitus recap is a weird move, and I think I would be mad at it too. But it's not easy for her either. She's giving up something too, after all, and I think the show really does a great job about making these two dweebs so sweet and both very lovable and understandable. They're mature kids, but they're still like they're young. Oh, to be young. And then we see something inhuman and cloaked approach in the night, which Moiraine suggests maybe something called an eyeless. They go on to refer to it as a fade. Are we to assume maybe the eyeless is a subset of fade? That's my gut instinct. That's my gut. That's where I'm going with it. Pretty much a universal pass on that though. Moiraine flexes so hard on Nynaeve in the next scene. I can't believe her biceps didn't pop out of her skin. Moiraine suggests there's some question over Nynaeve's past due to a lack of records in the village, and it really others Nynaeve, and I would be also very insulted. Nynaeve, to explain why she's so reluctant to trust this Aes Sedai and is so eager to have her leave the village. Nynaeve describes how when her previous mentor as a girl learned that she could hear the wind, she went to the White Tower where Moiraine's sisters, the other Aes Sedai, would pass judgment on her, and they basically laughed and turned her away because of her clothes and her appearance and how she was just like some country bumpkin. This new bit of information suggests that there's not really a bunch of difference between these two magics. There is an idea that this organized group of magic, that Aes Sedai, is somehow more powerful than these wisdoms. But we're given information that suggests that that's kind of just like a figment in the world's collective imagination, used to justify keeping wisdoms lower on the totem pole as far as like magic hierarchy and the world power hierarchies go. I'm just rambling here. Let's move on. Moiraine is being super shady to get information, but she's still being super shady. Like she's saying, people say you're too young to be a wisdom, but I disagree. Moiraine is trying to discern how old Nynaeve is to rule her out as the dragon. She's just so full of drama. There's like 30 ways she could have gotten that information. I'm here for Moiraine just like being so extra about everything, and it continues. Then Nynaeve and Egwene listen to the trees. Something is wrong. Mat begrudgingly accepts the charity of his friends in another touching scene where some healthy friendships between men are developed. I really like it. Mat goes out of his way to ask Rand how his thing with Egwene is going. Not great. Lan clenches his jaw in the forest until he finds a whole bunch of slaughtered animals arranged in a message or just a group of carcasses. I couldn't really tell. I thought it was a pattern. Then Daddy Rand tells us about the Wheel of Time. That's the show name, you guys. It's like the big wheel keeps on turning. The big wheel keeps on turning. Turning. And then the entire town gathers for some good-natured fun. I think it's really sweet that they all get together and they like, I guess there's nothing like good on TV that night. Lan warns Moiraine of the Fade, which he senses in the forest, which I assume is synonymous with the eyeless that I mentioned earlier. He's like, we must make haste to leave. And I agree. I'd go anywhere with either of them. So let's go. Let's just go. Where do you want to go? Before they can make it out, people just start dying. Why? Oh, giant fucking minotaurs. I have to look up what they're called because in my head it's a Trolloc. Can't be true, can it? Trolloc. Oh, yeah. I would have written it with a K. Whatever. Trollocs, you ask? Oh, just the beefiest fucking minotaurs you've ever seen, and they come armed right out of the box. So the Fade creature is commanding these Trollocs from a hilltop in the forest, but you can tell he's looking for something else. He doesn't really care about all the villagers getting slaughtered, but they are getting slaughtered. We see the town come together to collectively like stab one of these Trollocs to death, and it's a good way to show the audience that they're formidable, but they're not unbeatable. If a smaller opponent has a good strategy, you can beat a Trolloc. This is a great example of the rule setting that this show does that so many shows, so many other fantasy shows cannot get past. But The Wheel of Time does a fantastic job in these first 3 episodes spreading out the rules of magic. Then we pivot to Perrin and his wife at the forge. Perrin accidentally kills his wife, and it really was an unavoidable accident, but it's definitely something that anyone would be haunted by. He will be for the foreseeable future, I'm sure, because I am. Moiraine and Lan do show up for the town, although they take their sweet time getting there, and they absolutely shred on the battlefield. As Nynaeve and Egwene drag away a body, ostensibly to bury it, thinking that they might have an opportunity to do that, Nynaeve is just plucked up and dragged away by a Trolloc. It's really abrupt, and it sets the tone for this show kind of getting realer as it progresses. Like, we started off in this really wholesome Candyland village, but prior to that, we did get glimpses of the cold, crueler outside world, and now we're seeing these 4 kids' entrance into it. Eventually, Moiraine is overwhelmed and attacked, and she decides that is when it's time to get serious, because that was an option this whole time, and just fucking annihilates. This whole battle brings half the town down, but they defeated the first wave. What's left of the town, though, is not looking good. Moiraine heals Daddy Rand in another show of goodwill, but then Rand, gets really saucy about it. He decides to turn around and, blame her for the whole attack. Her presence here is what caused it. He did wait until after Moiraine healed his dad, which makes me think he's just, gonna be prone to temper tantrums rather than, actually meaning this bullshit. It makes sense, right? A hot-tempered little ginger boy. I kind of expected Matt to take the hot-tempered role. Anyways, taking it out of Moiraine is my point. Moiraine doesn't mince words with Matt, Perrin, and Egwene from that literal second. She tells them she's looking for the dragon. Their village isn't safe. They have to all come with her because she's not sure who the dragon is, but it's one of them. Those Beachbody Minotaurs and the Eyeless Fade are just gonna keep chasing them unless they go to the safety of the White Tower with the Aes Sedai. So they all have to bounce with her before the next wave shows up. Capiche? Next episode! Thank you for watching this recap of the first episode of The Wheel of Time with me. I really enjoyed this show. I'm excited to keep doing this, and I intend to unless it really takes a left turn and starts to piss me off. Hit that like button, subscribe, and follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and OnlyFans for more content from me. Bye!